I'm David Witcher, a member of the committee of Halifax Civic Trust, and this is what we hope is the first of a series of recordings about saving memories of Halifax. I'm talking today to Mary Crossley, who was very active at the time in saving the Halifax Piece Hall and getting it brought into use. She was also at the time a member of the Halifax Civic Trust, and her husband was indeed a long-serving chairman of it. Many people, of course, will not have perhaps heard of the Piece Hall, so we ought perhaps to say, first of all, what it is. It's a huge open quadrangle, nearly 100 yards square, built in 1779 for the sale of domestically produced pieces of woolen cloth, a piece being 30 yards long. And bizarrely, it was open once a week on Saturdays between 10 and 12, and for the rest of the week essentially stood idle. Trade then shifted to Bradford and Leeds, and so within 40 years it had virtually fallen out of use. It was given to Halifax Corporation in 1868, who in 1871 brought it into use as a wholesale market for fish, game and green grocery. It's important because it's the only complete Georgian Piece Hall in the UK, and it's in a spectacular setting under Beacon Hill. The Halifax Antiquarian Society got it designated as an ancient monument in 1928, and in 1954 it was listed Grade 1. And I think this is probably the point where it would be appropriate for Mary to read the first letter, which is when there were beginning to be rumblings about the future of the Piece Hall.
I wrote in November 1971, the chairman of the Halifax Development Committee is disturbed that the Piece Hall has deteriorated through lack of maintenance. He must be alone among courier readers if he's surprised. May the public of Halifax please be told which corporation committee owns this building, described by T.W. Hanson as one of the finest historic monuments of our town. Which committee receives rents from the tenants of the wholesale market? What sum is received annually in rent, and what sum has been spent on the maintenance of the fabric during each of the past 5 years? Does not the Department of the Environment expect Council to maintain the fabric of ancient monuments in its possession?
The distinguished architectural historian Gavin Stamp had a very interesting summary about the Piece Hall, and what he says is this: the history of the Piece Hall is not just of local interest, as the building is a monument of national importance. It adds so much to our understanding of the Georgian age, of the process by which public buildings were decided upon, designed, raised and paid for, the sort of men involved in such projects, their businesses and skills, their inspirations and aspirations. Above all, this history celebrates the central illuminating phenomenon, the extraordinary fact that the wool merchants in a town in the West Riding of Yorkshire in the reign of George III wished to conduct their business in an expensive structure which consciously emulated the grandeur of imperial Rome. This is a review of Philip Smithy's book, The Architecture of the Halifax Piece Hall. There was, of course, debate about the future of the Piece Hall. Some people wanted to knock it down.
Yes, indeed, and as a general understanding that it was saved by one vote on the council. That's not strictly true. It was actually saved because the chairman of the committee responsible refused to move his own committee's minute.
Yes, it was the full council, wasn't it?
Yes, it went full council.
Ended up
yes.
Voting 29 to 12.
I feel that the credit goes to the chairman of the committee,
Councillor Keith Amber.
Yes, of course.
And that was in January 1973.
2 years after I wrote,
yes.
Yes.
Yes. That, in a sense, that was the really crucial point when
yes.
the council finally decided to proceed at that stage, stone cleaning and a bit of repairing,
yes.
and to give notice to the wholesalers.
Yes.
Back in the early days, Mary,
yes.
after there had been the initial stirrings and with the debate running about what the Piece Hall was for, and with the council having a fairly narrow view of what it thought it should do, you wrote to the then town clerk on the 2nd of December 1972. So if you'd like to just repeat
yes,
that letter.
It would appear that it was after a council decision to apply for a £70,000 grant, but before the award of just £8,000.
Yes.
I'm happy to read in the Evening Courier of the corporation's plans to restore the Piece Hall. The Piece Hall is so large that it incorporates a wide diversity of activities. To the admirable ideas of an antique market, an industrial museum and an open-air market mentioned by Mr. O'Brien, may I add the following. craft studios and craft shops, shop windows for some of the many industries at present manufacturing in the town, an art gallery, one or more cafes, shops, meeting rooms for local societies, and an information centre for all the attractions of Calderdale. These suggestions should be combined by the removal of internal partitions. It is suggested that besides crafts, some of the following trades might be attracted to the Piece Hall: fabrics, paperback books, children's books, stationery, records, chocolates, health foods, travel agency, Indian bazaar, fruit and flowers, delicatessen, ice cream, toys, models, polyphoto, glassware and kitchen accessories. Perhaps a grand opening could be planned for 1975, European Architectural Heritage, with a fair and fireworks. I've long felt that the Piece Hall has an exciting future if it can be used in a variety of ways which are yet in tune with its history and origins. I should be grateful if you could bring this to the attention of the Special Development Subcommittee.
How right you were, Mary, and before your time. And anyway, the work went on, and there was indeed a grand opening, having been delayed, and many of your ideas came to fruition, not all.
No, not all, but such an enormous amount of space.
Yes.
I might mention that I'd been into the Piece Hall. I didn't know it existed until somebody suggested that I go down to one of the fish stalls and get some frozen prawns or something for a party. And I went through the gate, the west gate, and up the stairs, and was absolutely flabbergasted by the size of this place. And despite the fact that there were holes in the ceiling and holes in the floor and it smelled of cats, I could really almost say that it was love at first sight. It started me off with being overwhelmed at what we'd got in Halifax.
Yes, you were in something of a minority at the time, weren't you? Because there were plenty of people who didn't see its value.
No, well, nobody saw its value for a very long time. Oh dear.
Having seen your file, there's a whole pack of letters, because clearly you were very active in pestering, and rightly, for it not just to be repaired, but being brought properly into use.
Quite. The first restoration was very modest. The building itself had 315 rooms. I managed to open a craft shop and had a lot of fun. It was most enjoyable travelling all over the place and finding things that I liked. Can't say that it was a very profitable venture because the council didn't exactly encourage visitors. They didn't allow us any signs up on the balconies.
You ran that shop, didn't you, until, 1983?
I should say that yes, I should say that there were three of us. There was my own little shop, which I had 3 units. And next door to me, in a single unit, was a little man who made carts and cannons. And down in the corner was an artist, Sarah K. Tomlinson, who later married the planning officer and has always been interested and maintains her interest to this day.
Yes. Work had started in 1974, hadn't it, on the stone cleaning? That was an initial quote, I think, of about, 80,000. The formal opening was 76, but it opened in 75, perhaps, for work, possibly?
Oh,
just before the
opened,
opening.
There was an open-air market on Fridays and Saturdays in the quadrangle.
And then by 1975 it had crept up to 230,000, and indeed by October that year it was up to 320,000. A bigger article in the Halifax Courier, 26 March 1975, in the middle of the facelift. Mrs. Crossley, though appreciative of the council's work in restoring the structure of the Piece Hall, does feel that not enough use is being made of an asset which she thinks would bring people flocking to Halifax. There is currently an upsurge of public interest in the work of craftsmen and artists, she says. Piece Hall could be an exciting centre for display and sale. There could be workshops and studios, art galleries and shops, some for crafts and others for books, antiques and specialist trades of many kinds. And you were absolutely right at the time, Mary. The council's narrow view of what it was for was mistaken.
It was only recently that I realised that my file goes back 50 years because it's unbelievable.
Yes. Following the grand opening in July 1976, there was a very nice letter to you from the mayor and his wife, Mona and Reg Mitchell.
Yes.
And I'd just like to read it. The Piece Hall opening was a great success and you must feel very proud. We must all make sure that in future it's secure and that the public will now use it. In all the festivities, I did not feel I thanked you adequately. Your wonderful surprise of the Piece Hall figures will stand out in my memories and be a constant reminder of that happy day. Reg and I are very busy in Calderdale, but I shall certainly find time to come and see you. May I thank you for all you have done for the Piece Hall and congratulate you on your craft shop. It is of the high standard we hope to achieve and a fine example of your faith and courage. I know you will receive pleasure from your project, but I also admire the thought and sense of purpose which drives you on. Best wishes.
Oh, very nice.
Reggie Mitchell.
Yes, Mona was the mayor. And
yes, that's what Mona
yes,
was.
Mona was the mayor. Oh, how very nice. And that does remind me, because I got together with a potter called Pat Kay, and she made a couple of figures which we present to Mrs. Mitchell.
That's right, yes, those are the figures that she was.
Yes,
right.
that was delightful.
So that sort of takes us to the early stage when the critical step had been made in terms of the council deciding to save the Piece Hall. And then it goes a bit quiet, of course, until July 2009 when the Courier starts talking about a lottery bid being made to restore the Piece Hall.
Yes, I said.
But this was a major restoration.
Yes, major restoration. I had the shop for about 7 years.
Yes.
At which point Dean Clough was closed, and my husband decided to save a few jobs and keep the flag flying, and opened a little company making carpet again, but in Black Dyke Mills. And I became his company secretary. It kept me busy afterwards.
I didn't know that, yes.
Yes, I mean, it was very sad when Dean Clough closed.
And then following that bid, of course, there was then the award made in 2010 from the Heritage Lottery Fund. And of course the rest we all know about. That there was a major upgrade, really the first, as a proper restoration that had been done since the place was built, so that it opened again in August 2017 after spending 19 million on it.
By that time, people were beginning to think that perhaps we had something special in Halifax.
It must have given you great satisfaction.
Oh, indeed, absolutely. Now it's absolutely buzzing in all sorts of ways.
Indeed. But
I'm bringing people from far and wide.
Being the centre, you always foresaw.
Well, I wasn't the only person sort of in my file. I remember someone who was very supportive was Eric Busby, who owned the Goose Hall Gallery at Menston. And because he sent me some rather nice photographs of a sort of field of cloth of gold and how people could come flocking to the Piece Hall.
Yes.
Which they now do.
Yes.